Muy bien, gracias por acompañarnos. Reiniciamos las actividades de la cuarta Conferencia Internacional de Semillas y Aceites de Girasol. Todavía quedan algunos en el hall comercial. Los invitamos a reingresar al auditorio. Están ricas las medialunas, pero hay que continuar con las actividades. Ahora vamos a presenciar el panel internacional sobre el mercado del aceite de girasol desde el punto de vista de los exportadores. El panel estará integrado por el señor Andrew Campbell, Trading Manager de Avere Commodities de Ucrania, quien nos ha enviado un video con su presentación, el señor Igor Kapitanchuk, responsable mundial de aceite de girasol de COFCO, el señor Alejandro Gallego, de Viterra, Argentina, y además director en Ciara, y va a moderar este panel, y le damos la bienvenida al señor Jorge Ingaramo, asesor de CISAG.
Bueno, buenos días a todos. Yo soy Jorge Ingaramo, asesor económico de CISAG. Soy el que maneja la parte números y hace los informes mensuales que espero que alguno lea. Son un ladrillo extraordinario, pero a lo mejor alguien los lee. A mí me cuesta bastante trabajo hacerlos. Tengo la misión de moderar este panel que empieza con un video, así que yo me voy a bajar para dejarlos ver tranquilos. Es un video que produjo Mr. Andrew Campbell, Trading Manager de Avere Commodities, que se llama Global Sunflower Oil Market of Black Sea Region. Así que yo me bajo y ustedes ven el video del señor y después vuelvo con los otros dos invitados, que es Igor Kapitanchuk y Alejandro Gallego.
Hello everyone, this is Andrew Campbell from Avere Commodities SA. And I'm here to talk about vegetable oil markets and the price prospects for sunflower oil. This session will be divided in three. We're going to talk about why did vegetable oil prices go up 2 years ago and last year. The second part of the session will be why are we going down so fast? And the third part will basically be where do we go next? To start with, why did we go up so fast in first place? Well, this is just a recollection of factors, right? So you're probably very well aware of the individual factors, but I'm just trying to put them together for you. Well, we started with a very big crop loss in Ukraine 2 years ago. That crop loss in Ukraine, of course, led to much higher sunflower oil and sunflower seed prices around the world in relative terms. This was followed in the next year by a rapeseed crop failure or canola crop failure in Canada. That crop failure in Canada made prices worldwide for canola oil and rapeseed oil to skyrocket as well. This happened at a moment that the world was recovering from COVID. So there was quite a decent demand recovery and pipeline rebuild happening at that stage. That also happened when the US was ramping up biodiesel or renewable diesel, more clearly, capacity in the back of potential future mandates. And lastly, the reason why we saw so much higher prices, obviously, it was the war between Russia and Ukrainian territory. With this, of course, we not only lost acreage in Ukraine to a crop of 10.5, 10.6 million tons, but we also lost export capacity. The war between end of March, last days of February 2022 until almost August, the world was not seeing any export out of Ukraine. So that, of course, the tighten on supply made prices firm up considerably during that period. Then, after that, what happened? Well, we stabilized in a very high level for vegetable oil prices. With such a stabilization, we did see an acreage increase around the world. We saw favorable weather in Canada, and also we did see UCO supply, used cooking oil supply, catching up very fast. So the economic incentive for UCO has triggered China, Malaysia, and Indonesia, and many other countries around the world to collect and export more used cooking oil. With more used cooking oil, we're basically replacing virgin oils into biofuels, mostly. This happened at the same time when indeed we have a crop loss in Argentina, which you can call it sub 30 million tons easily at this stage, but also at the same time we had a huge crop in Brazil. It's fair to say that the crop in Brazil is not below 150 to 153 million tons. With that, we create a Brazilian beans carryout of at least 10 million tons, let's say, even if you consider that Brazil will be exporting part of those beans already to Argentina. All right. Then at the same time, we saw Ukrainian farmers and the country itself needing cash, the need for cash flow. So everything the farmer had and everything the crushers could buy in Ukraine had to go to the export channel straight away. To that, we must add that the storage capacity in Ukraine has been decreased due to the war. So the main storage pool in Ukraine is the port of Nikolaev with 500,000 ton storage. That is not, Nikolaev is not part of the grain deal. It's not part of the storage pool. Because of that, Ukraine lost half of its storage capacity. So on top of having the need for cash, the need for storage is also there. So naturally, the price pressure, the selling pressure from Ukraine is very heavy, and it should continue relatively heavy until Ukraine runs out of seeds. Continuing on, why are we going down? Well, definitely another factor has been the huge crop recovery on our canola and rapeseeds. Between Canada, Europe, and Australia, the world has produced more canola and rapeseeds than actually the world can crush. Unless, of course, we're going to find so much more demand in China, but we don't think the prices of rapeseed oil are there to the stage that it will be replacing even potentially palm. So all these factors are putting a lot of pressure in our market. And this is happening also at the same time that we've seen a huge overall agricultural commodities sell-off. So we cannot discard the fact that wheat, beans, meal, everything has found a top and has been selling off. So the momentum has been extremely negative, which led to the price for sunflower oil below $1,000 today. As we stand today, then we go to the third part of this discussion. Where are we going with prices? What will sunflower oil do? Well, basically, let's start with our demand assumptions. At the time of this pitch, sunflower oil is trading at par with palm, pretty much. We see sunflower oil trading below 1,000, so let's say $980. That's not very far away from palm. If in India we assume a demand growth of 4.5% a year, this means that sunflower oil demand equivalent will be close to 300,000 tons a month. This is close to a record average pace. We could argue that at this stage we're already switching in the east coast of India the super early in demand for sunflower oil. With these sort of numbers, and considering also a demand recovery in China above 10% most likely, which will imply a yearly demand from China for sunflower oil of around 1 million tons, it is fair to say that the world cannot sustain such cheap sunflower oil price. So what do we expect? By end of May, beginning of June, Ukraine will be running out of seeds. Not only that, meaning that the world will not be able to put hands on cheap sunflower oil anymore. Russia is not able to export more than 340,000 a month on a consistent basis, and the fact that the also prices are low in Russia and Ukraine would simply cease farmer selling. So we do believe that these sort of discounts for sunflower oil are simply not sustainable, and if anything, they represent a very good buying opportunity. We also have to factor in the possible acreage loss that we're facing today due to the lower prices. So the farmer has not planted sun seeds yet in the northern hemisphere. So we need to really challenge our assumptions on acreage, which could imply then lower production, even lower than this year in Ukraine, and maybe potentially lower than this year's Russian crop as well, which then could bring up another story on the long run. I'm not here to make a call on what the world of veg oil flat price will be doing, because as we stand today with the geopolitical and financial market uncertainties, that became nearly an impossible task. However, I'm here to repeat to you, sunflower oil is very cheap on relative basis, and it should not be sustained. So if you can get hold of relative value sunflower oil, I do recommend you do it. Okay, thank you very much and enjoy beautiful Argentina. Bye bye.
Bueno, ahora invito a Igor Kapitanchuk, Global Head of Sunflower Oil de COFCO, a dar su conferencia que se trata de el Mar Negro, el principal oferente de aceite de girasol en el mercado global.
Good day to everyone. My name is Igor Kapitanchuk. I'm Ukrainian. I'm working for COFCO International in Geneva. And the topic of my presentation is Black Sea is the major supplier of sunflower oil to the global market. Okay, so we start with a quick production of the seeds overview. As you can see, there are 4 main producers of sunseed, which is Ukraine, Russia, EU, and Argentina. The grain bars, what you see, the green bars, what you see is basically the expectation of the crop that is to be planted now. So we expect that the acreage on the sunseed in Ukraine will be higher, about 800,000 higher, because of better economics, because of less inputs to use versus grains. So actually, the acreages on the oilseeds will be, on all oilseeds will be larger in Ukraine versus grains. So, and also we expect a little bit better yield. So that's why we expect pretty decent crop of 14 million next year, which again, to be planted now. In Russia, the acreages will be a little bit higher, but the harvested area will be larger, quite a lot larger versus last year, where there was an issue of a lot of rains during harvesting period. So a lot of actually acreage has been abandoned. So this should not happen next year. So that's why we expect in Russia record crop. EU, we expect also pretty decent crop, more to do with the yields. I mean, last year was a drought in Europe, so yields were quite low, below trend. So now we expect that it should be better, and the moisture so far has been good, and the acreages will be more or less similar to last year, with slight increase in France. So again, expect pretty decent crop. In Argentina, this is the crop which is under harvesting at the moment. We expect it to be around 4 million. It's been harvested about 64-65% up to now, so which is a little bit below last year, 74, but I think the pace will pick up, and it will be a pretty decent crop in Argentina. Okay, I think everyone will recognize here a map of Ukraine. So the gray areas, the gray territories are the territories which have been liberated by the Ukrainian army after the Russian occupation. And the red territories are still under Russian occupation and which will be liberated soon. You can see as well here, see this one. Okay. Just a second. Okay, this is the way it works. So you see that the acreage drop last year was 26% from the previous year before the war. So it was quite a big drop. And as a result, obviously, production dropped 34%. It was actually a drop of 6 million in the production. On top of that, it's important to mention about the crush industry that has suffered because of the Russian invasion. About 20% of the crush industry in Ukraine has been between destroyed or blocked or not able basically to produce. So pretty big number. Important to mention again is what I said, that the acreage we expect to be higher, but the planting will be happening more in the central part of Ukraine and basically more to the western side. Instead of normally you plant a lot here. This is the main area for the sunset. So actually you see a shift in planting a little bit to this side, further from the war line. Okay, so on this slide you see global sunflower oil exports. So we expect quite a big export supply. So I mean not record, but I mean not far away. So over 12 million. So and you see the orange line representing the percentage of the Black Sea. So Black Sea representing over 70%. So again, this is the major supplier of sunflower oil to the market. This is on this slide you see monthly global sunflower oil exports. Very interesting to see the green line, which is the export of last year. So after the Russian invasion in February, you see massive drop of the export. That's when the market doubled. The prices in Europe actually doubled within a short period of time. But then gradually, the Ukraine found a way to export the oil through the borders by railway and by trucks, and also in the southern part, in the southern small ports, Reni and Ismail. So then gradually exports increased, and actually this is the period when the grain deal was done, end of July, August last year. Then you see this green line going up, so the exports picked up quite a lot. So it was big supply at the time. The red line is the current season on this chart. So up to now the export's been pretty good. As we know, the grain deal has been done 10 days ago. So still, I mean, debatable for how many days it's been extended. Ukraine says it's 120 days. Russians keep on saying it's only 16. So, but I think it will continue, and that's quite important for Ukraine to have this grain deal. Although its efficiency is super poor. Yeah, I mean you have a waiting of more than 60 days, and so big demurrage bills to pay, and yeah, the efficiency is not really good, to be honest. Okay, on this slide you see major sun oil exporters. Of course, it's Ukraine, Russia, Argentina, and the EU. Ukraine, we expect this season. So even though we had a smaller crop last year, we had a big carryover of around 3 million from the last year. So that's why the export surplus is still relatively high. In Russia, we expect quite a big export, 4 million, which actually Russia has been the one putting pressure on the market last 2-3 weeks. And that's why the market dropped so much. And well, Argentina export is going to be the same. I mean, it's going to be close to 1 million. But I mean, why there is no big difference? I mean, last year, even though it was a smaller crop, I mean, all the carry-out, there was almost zero carry-outs in Argentina. So this year probably is going to be a different story. And then EU also will be exporting quite a bit more versus last year, but this is basically re-exports of Ukrainian oil through EU. Okay, so on this slide you see sunflower oil export from Ukraine by logistical channels. Since implementation of the grain corridor last year, end of July, August. So you can see that through the corridor up to now, it's been going about 37% of the total exports. So again, super important for Ukraine to have it because it's a big chunk that's still going through the getting exported from Ukraine. Then you, by sea vessels and barges in these southern ports, Reni and Ismail, is about 38%, also quite a large number. And export by trucks and railway has increased quite a lot since the invasion, so 13 and 12% respectively. So and this on the map you can see the flows. On this slide, it's basically main sunflower oil export destinations from Ukraine. You can see that EU is becoming, it's taking about 50% of the exports from Ukraine, which about a third of it, 700,000 to 800,000 will be re-exported, which is mainly from Romania and Bulgaria. Then direct shipments to India will fall to about 500,000 to 600,000, which is through the corridor. But Ukraine will remain still the largest supplier of sun oil due to re-exports from Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey. And of course, China is a major buyer of Ukrainian sun oil, which is done also through the corridor and is taken about 600,000, so which represents about 15% of the Ukrainian exports. Okay, similar situation about Russia, just to show the overview of the destinations of Russian oil. So Turkish share in Russian sunflower oil dropped from 20 to 15% because of, again, super active shipments from Ukraine through these shallow ports in Reni and Ismail. Then shipments to India actually almost doubled to 700,000. Representing 18% of Russian total sunflower oil exports. Iran takes about 15%, which is a stable flow, which is the flow through the Caspian Sea. And then China became the biggest importer of Russian sunflower oil, taking about 800,000. Actually, this is what we expect this season. And this is including the railway, because there was a lot of flow which has been going through the border, Russia and China. Okay, this is a quick overview of export duties in Russia. Last week it was implemented, this $18. For May, we don't expect any duty, but still these duties are pretty low versus last year. You see, 300, they were quite higher export duties. There were talks last 2 weeks about Russia limiting export of the oil on seeds and wheat, actually. Whether it's going to happen or not, I think no one knows. But I think what Russian government is trying to do is to defend the farmers, because obviously with such a drop of the oil, which dropped, in March it dropped about 20%, so basically the prices of the seeds also dropped a lot in Russia. So this is the way basically they want to spook the market and international market and somehow to support it, and which actually they achieved somehow, because market actually bounced back quite since a massive drop of 10 days ago. But for example, also on the wheat, they will be buying about 7 million tons of wheat into state reserve, on top of 3 million that they already have. On this slide, you can see major sunflower oil importers, which is, of course, India, by far the biggest importer. Like one country importer. You have EU, of course, taking 2.4, but I think this number is debatable. Probably not everyone will agree to this. It's pretty big number, but I think with the way the sun oil is competitive now, I think this is the way to go. If we look at EU is gonna export about 2.4 million. So let's say it's going to import about 2.4 million, which is a stable import. But again, part of it is going to re-export to other countries. So it's the import and re-exported Ukrainian oil. Then you have China, massive increase in China. I mean, from about 600,000 last year to 1.4 million. So quite a lot after COVID time. Turkey, I mean, stable import, but again, a lot to do with the re-export of the Ukrainian sun oil. So Turkey became the hub, the same as Romania and Bulgaria, on re-exporting Ukrainian sunflower oil. Then Egypt and Iraq are, let's say, stable buyers. Iraq has been supporting the market, has been buying decent quantities last years. And Iran will need to replenish their stocks from last year, so taking about 700,000 tons in the current season. Quick overview on the freight. Obviously, freight rallied quite a lot after the invasion. So you can see it on the charts. I mean, this is the freight from main ports in Black Sea, Chornomorsk, Reni, Ismail. These are the 1,000 small coastal ports. Then Romania, Bulgaria, and Taman and Novorossiysk in Russia. So freights have gone up. I mean, they remain, freight is remaining quite supported. I mean, maybe less supported in the small coasters, but on the bigger tankers, it's still supported. I mean, I don't think we will, in the near future, we will come back to the freight rates the way we had before the Russian invasion. So those levels probably not to be seen in the near future. This is, on this slide you see CNF India price spread between sun oil and bean oil on the first one, and sun oil and palm oil on the second one. These are the monthly prices. So you can see that that sun oil is super competitive. Just a second, I'll just put it here. So I mean, this is what was the spread after the Russian invasion. Obviously, when sun oil was almost non-available, it was only available in Argentina. But again, it was a massive rally. But now the green line is basically what we see now. So sun oil is offered under discount. And if you see the green line, this is also current season spread between sun oil and palm oil. So we see that spread has been narrowing quite a lot. And actually, on the next slide, we will see this is the weekly sunflower oil, palm oil spread. So we can see that actually last week it was sun oil was even trading below palm oil into India, which is again is not sustainable, and it will not last for too long. Yeah, this will change. On this slide, you see local market price spread in India. I will not spend too much time on it. I think there will be Indian presentation, and we can elaborate more on this. But again, sun oil is pretty competitive at the current prices. This is interesting chart. I like it. I mean, basically, it shows the sun oil bean oil spread in correlation depending on the sunseed crop in the Black Sea. So I mean, generally speaking, when the crops in Black Sea are good, are big, I mean, sun oil would almost every time trade at discount. When the crops are, let's say, normal, then it's close to even money. And when the crops are small, you see the sun oil trading at a big premium. And this is the example, for example, I mean, this year was 2020-21 when there was a lot of rains during harvesting, so there was a lot of crop loss, and so sun oil rallied a lot. It was trading over $300 over bean oil. Then the next season, the crop was big, and sun oil was trading at basically even money, with some discount. And then obviously this is when invasion happened, so it was a massive increase on the spread. Sun oil premium versus bean oil reached almost $800. I mean, this is, you will see on the next slide, and this is now. So we see sun oil is trading under bean oil. This is what I said in the previous slide. So yeah, I mean, at some times we were reaching this sort of spreads premium for sun oil, which is unsustainable as well, $800. But this when happens when supply there is a problem with supply. And when there is no problem with supply in the sun oil, I mean, it's very competitive and it's very close to even money and at discount as well. Very quick overview of sunflower oil usage in EU biodiesel. So we don't expect it to be too big this year. I mean, because about 200,000. This is only in the first half of the season when sun oil was trading at discount to rape oil. So you need to have about $100 discount for sun oil, basically to buy the share into biodiesel, to be competitive. And you need to have the vaccine. So again, it's not a big number, and especially now with rape oil super cheap in Europe, it's very competitive. So basically they compete between each other. So there is no way this number is going to increase, let's say this year, because of competitiveness of the rape oil. And this is what you see on this next slide. So this is the spread now between sun oil in Europe and rape oil. So I mean, they're pretty close. They're competing against each other, and that's why, again, the number of sun oil going into biodiesel is super limited. Well, that's about it on my side. Just basically in conclusion, I didn't finish. In conclusion to my presentation, I want to say 2 points. So sun oil is, there is no shortage of sun oil. From my perspective, sun oil is there, it's available. It is competitive, it is cheap, so that's why it's buying the market share. It's gonna be replacing other oils in different markets. It's actually going to exotic markets now, in some places which normally would not buy sunflower oil. And the second point, what I want to say is that without Ukraine, without Ukrainian agricultural production, you know, this market would be super difficult and the world would be a total disaster. So that's why we need to support Ukraine as much as we can. So, Slava Ukraini!
Convoco ahora al representante de Argentina para que analice el trabajo. La conferencia se llama Demand, Supply and Export Scenario of Sunflower Seed Meal and Oil in Argentina. Es el señor Alejandro Gallego, de Viterra, de Ciara y también de Aceites. Acá en el programa no lo pusieron, pero también es de Aceites.
Bueno, good morning, buen día. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you. I will to explain what is going on the supply and demand in Argentina, but after seeing such a wave of sun oil coming from the Northern Hemisphere, wow, will be difficult to explain something clear. But okay, we have certain strengths, certain advantages, and I think those things should be here in these slides. How we are seeing Argentina's strength? We are in the South Hemisphere. We are the insurance for the buyers to a certain extent. We don't have still the amount of sun oil or the pellets to be provided, but at least we are ready to be and produce as much as we can. And we have seen too many numbers today. And those numbers are showing that perspectives are very good. I don't want to bother you and continue with numbers and numbers, okay? But I want to point out what is Argentina fighting with 3.9 million tons against the 39.8, 10%. It's important, not very strong, but it's an insurance for all the buyers. Then, how and why is the difference? The Northern Hemisphere is normally planting by March, April, and June, okay, and harvesting by September, October, November. We in the South Hemisphere are doing the other way. We are just planting September, October, November, and harvesting in April and May. This is the big difference. When the crop is almost finished in the North Hemisphere, we started with a fresh crop in the South Hemisphere. Just to give you an idea how was the evolution, we saw in many slides here, because all of us have the same slides or similar slides. We are talking about the same. So, but basically what I want to point out is that in the last 10 years, Argentina remained below 4 million tons. And the others in the Northern Hemispheres grow up to 39 million tons. This is one important factor which is there, is demand. People want to eat sun oil, which is a very important issue at price, but it's sun oil, which creates a good possibility for all of us. What happened in Argentina? We were like this, okay? Full of sunseed. Was the following. At the beginning, 20, 40 years ago, it was produced sunflower in Argentina. And we reached 7 million tons, okay? Good? Now, 7 million tons, just the peak in the 1997, 98. After that, and in those days, the soybean production in Argentina was 5, 6. Then, the other way around, you know, all the sunseed was moved to the regional areas of the soybean belt due to direct seeding and a new type of seed for beans, new practice, good practice, everything moves the sun. So, and this is how you are seeing the curve here, okay, going down. And if I put here a line, the soybeans will reach, well, over the mirror, the screen. So these here are showing us how is the actual situation of the sunseed. Moves to the regional or less rainy areas, the north and the west and the southeast of Buenos Aires province. When we talk about Argentina, we have two different areas. One area is the northern part, which is planted and started in July, harvested started in December, and the other area we call the south area of sunflower, which started in September and harvested mid-February until April. These two different areas are giving fresh oil from January, February, and then continue in the south from March. Until now, the Buenos Aires Grain Exchange on March 23 gave a harvest progress of 63.5. Average yield of 1.8, but we are seeing, many of us are seeing in the south, a difference on the yields. So between 1.6 and 3 tons per hectare. So the conclusion is, are we ready to get 3.9 million tons? Because still 38% or 30% of the crop is not done, harvested. And you know, with the drought that we have this year, it's quite difficult to be precise on this number. So, private discussing, traders, everybody are talking about the range, 3.6 to 3.9. We will see in 20 days, 25 days, what's going on. Then, this is the area that I showed in the picture before. Installed capacity for sun, 6 million. Most of the crushing plant, multi-seeds. There are few 100% sunseed crush. So, if the production grow, can we crush as a sunseed? Yes, we can. You know that to crush sunseed is different than to crush soybeans on the techniques, equipments, and so on. So we had the capacity to do it. And you can see here all the factories spread all around the sunseed area, productive area. So we call Mediterranean factories and port or close to the port factories. Out of when or how the oil and the pellets is coming out? Upriver ports, and we can see the huge amount of ports and some of our crushing plants. In the south, we have Necochea, it's the deepest port of Argentina, with Bahía Blanca, which is so important, okay? Also, we complete the vessels there. And then we have Bahía Blanca. Bahía Blanca is a tidal port as well, but it's having 48 to 50 feet depending on the tide. So out of these 3 ports, we are moving 100% of our export out of Argentina. Now, supply from Argentina. Well, there are discussions about how to calculate the supply because there are certain uncertainties on how the farmer and the economic and political conditions will be moving in the coming months. So if we assume that the crop is 3.9, we believe that 3.2 will be the crush. Its alternative if the lower prices became somewhere 100,000 tons of seed will be export. And this discussion is about the carry out. Why? Because in this carry out, we need to take in consideration that the farmer, the seller of the product, needs to take some incentives on prices to move, okay? Remember, and we are talking about the dollar soja and all these kind of things, all the economics measures that can be taken could also affect this carry out. If affected, it's because there are more sales, and if there are more sales, more crush. But let's assume that this is a conservative crushing, then how the flow continue. We have 1.4 million tons on sun oil, out of which 750 is exported to India mainly, to Mexico, we will see later on. And then we consume between 500 to 600,000 tons in the domestic market, and we export some to the border countries by trucks. On the sun pellets, 1.3 million tons, out of which 750 will be exported, and domestic consumption is around 600,000 tons. This is the year 2022. How were the exports from Argentina? Look at India. You know, it's not a mistake on the graph, it's reality. You guys have been buying from us almost 50%, 55% of our export. Thank you. Thank you very much. Then we have Mexico, Australia, Iraq, France, Malaysia, South Africa, and all the other countries, okay? Then we have the flour mill pellets exports, where our main destination is the Netherlands, Europe, France, Spain, UK, and also New Zealand. Now, forecast. This is not a dream, this is a possibility. And it is a possibility because we have the feeling and we have seen that the sunflower seed is back. We have been growing, farmers are getting margins, farmers are getting good weathers, problems have been afforded by the sunflower, so this is a great warrior. Gentlemen, sunflower is alive in Argentina and will keep growing. Okay, regardless what the others say, will be here. Now, hey, how much? Well, you know, there are more variables, but 4 more important variables, which is who are taking the decision, what to make the plantation, the farmer. Farmer decide, make calculations, also think about what happened in the past year. The memory is on this respect. So, La Niña, drought, problems with the crops. Why not to try to make more sunseed? It's a possibility. Then weather conditions. The weather conditions normally are affecting in the north of Argentina, dry weather or floods depending on rains. Apparently, we will have one Niño. Others say that it will be neutral, but definitely will not be La Niña. But there is one major agronomic problem. Our subsoil moisture is nil. We don't have reserves. We need to replace this reserve by at least 250 to 300 millimeters in all the area. So hopefully we will have the rains one day. And then planting seed available. Our friends from the breeding companies, if you see the graph I show you, when the cure came down to 7 million to 2.3 million production, why to produce seeds? There is no buyer for the seeds. Even my refrigerator is full of sun seed to be planted. So now, what they decided is to reinvest, and the programs start to run full speed. So seed will not be a problem, is what they promise us. I hope so. It will be a reality. And then we have the sunflower oil and meal demand, which is creating, we have seen Andrew and also Igor explaining how the demand can be and what is going on, the spread of the oil and also on. So, with all these variables more or less in line, we believe that in the crop 24, which harvested in 24 in Argentina, we can have 4.3 million tons of sunseed, and in the year 25, we can have 4.7 million tons of sunseed. So, as I said before, it's back and will remain. Now, which is the crush? This is a calculation based on estimated figures, but what I want to show you is, because we have here our main buyers, that the exports of oil, okay, or the possibilities, production will be higher. And with this production, maybe we can supply more and sell more to you. That's all. Thank you very much. And really, I want to thank all the Indian delegation, because they make the life to us easy, because they demand. The relationship with them are tremendous. We like it. We feel each other. We feel like one family. Like the Indians say, one family, one world. Okay? From Sierra, all of us want to say thank you very much.
El agradecimiento para la participación en este panel a Andrew Campbell, Igor Kapitanchuk, Alejandro Gallego y la moderación de Jorge Ingaramo. Finalizamos así la primera etapa de este primer día.